That intro is the best. It gets me every time.
Every time. The countdown, the final countdown.
I love it.
Hey guys, welcome to our Sacramento region market update through July of 2022. We are excited to get together with you. My name is Brandon Leon. I'm a local realtor. I'm joined by Keith Collins of Movement Mortgage, a local lender, and our job is to talk about what's going on in the real estate market today, what's relevant, what do you need to know about. We're going to talk about mortgage interest rates. We're going to talk about the market as a whole. We're going to talk about advice for buyers and sellers in today's market that I think are right on point. We're also going to talk about thinking a little more holistically as far as your finances. And there's a brand new program that I'm excited to share with you, Buy Before You Sell Your Home. So buy a home before you sell your home. A great opportunity for the right person, the right family to move forward with. So we're excited. We action packed. We're gonna jump right into it because we want to just bring the best content to you. If you are here right now, just give us a little heart, a little thumbs up, a little comment. Let us know you're here. We want to hear from you. If you have questions, shoot them to us. We'll answer everything to the best of our ability. But without further ado, let's get
going.
Yeah, let's get into the market, like the real estate market. So Sacramento region. So we're talking about Sacramento, Placer, Yolo, El Dorado counties, right? We're talking about the greater Sacramento region. Last month in June, we had a median price of about $610,000. We're down to $596. It's only almost 2.3% change. But that's also down from the previous month. So we've seen kind of 2 consecutive months of house prices going down. So Keith, what would you say about that?
I think that's probably a little early from a traditional standpoint, but I don't know if people realize. I think we all have very short-term memories, and we forget that COVID was kind of an anomaly related to real estate, where you actually do see a median price decline as people think of the spring buying season as being something right now. No, it's February, April. So we start to see activity start slowing down actually late July as we move into August. So time will tell for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next month and the following. But that's something that typically happens this time of year. But it does feel different this year a little bit. It's interesting out there for sure.
Yeah, interesting to say the least. There's a lot of factors that contribute to that. But if you watched us last month, we had a very solid decline as far as what we were seeing in the market. Inventory was rising, interest rates were up. We had an increase in the actual inventory, but we had a decrease in homes sold. And so what I was saying, and what I will continue to say, is we don't have enough data yet, but we are seeing an adjustment, and the adjustment's here. It's here to stay, but it doesn't mean that the market is crashing. It doesn't mean that the market won't correct. So we're seeing it stabilize and become more normal as far as the median price going down slightly, but there's still a great percentage of houses that are selling at or above the list price. So it's a case by case situation for every single house. I mean, you see the average price per square foot down a couple percent, the number of sales down 17%. I think that's one of the bigger numbers here to look at. Just seeing that we already had a 30% reduction in number of sales last month. Now we're at 17, so it's about half that. We normally do see a little bit of decline this time of the year, just like Keith was talking about. So it's not that out of the ordinary, but the fact that you have, several buyers kind of sitting on the fence right now with the interest rates, and you have houses, a little bit of increase of inventory. It's kind of the double whammy, I think, that's caused these numbers to look a little worse than they really are. This is a little out of the ordinary, but it's not alarming, at this point. But, Keith, talk more about the month of supply.
Yeah, so months of supply, we've got going up 37%, which when you say that, right, you say 37%, you're like, oh my goodness, that is a massive increase. But when we look at the actual numbers, months supply is 1.7 months versus 2.3. And really months of supply. The idea and how they come up with this is, I think you look at that and you're like, what is that number? What does that mean? If all homes were sellable and no new homes came on the market, how long would it take for us to run out of homes based on the current sales pace? So 2.39, 2.4 months is really what we have. One would used to say kind of a balanced market would be 6 months. I think that's probably more in the 3 or 4 month market, a 4 month number where we're actually seeing a balanced market where you kind of have equal footing on between buyer and seller. But it's definitely gone up from the lows that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. And just
Yep.
keep in mind, these are all the whole Sacramento region. So each
Oh, yeah.
city is going to be very specifically different. And you have a range from, smaller single family homes to multi-million-dollar homes. So there's a huge range here, but it's good to see what the market's doing overall.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like communities and pockets are going to be way different, right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting here thinking, gosh, like the average home is taking 22 days to sell right here, whereas average days on market is 22 days, but like your little micro market is 2 months, you're going to have poor expectations. And so this is more of a 500-foot flyover of the greater market. You need to really nail down to specific markets and really the neighborhood that you're in.
And I think looking at that, I think that's something great to just even just bring up and talk about. Like if you're in a space where you look at these numbers and they're alarming to you and you want to know what numbers look like more in your area, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to get you some more stats for your specific area to give you an idea kind of where you're at there. So that's the market snapshot as far as what we were looking for now. What I kind of want to jump into, which I think you have a lot of flash around headlines, right? It's like, man, stay out of the headlines. But interest rates are a huge piece of what we're seeing in headlines, other than recession and all those other things. So I want to kind of cover the mortgage update first. Tell us what's going on right now in the beginning of August 2022. What's going on right now with mortgage interest rates and just mortgages in general?
Yeah, so mortgage interest rates right now in the beginning of August are lower than their highs. So we're actually a little bit lower than we've been in July. So interest rates were actually clicking into the 6s in July. We're down now in the low 5s, which is kind of cool. We're down in the 4s for a little bit there right at the beginning. And so what's happened is the Federal Reserve is actually raising the federal funds rate. It's been very active. The last 2 meetings, they meet every 6 months, every 6 weeks. And the last 2 meetings, they've raised interest rates 0.75%. That's actually moving 30-year fixed interest rates down. I don't know if we want to get into the details as to why, but that's happening. And as the Federal Reserve continues to raise the federal funds rate, we should see 30-year fixed mortgage interest rates come down. There's also a recent article that I was reading where all the CFOs of Fortune 500 companies were surveyed, and it was something like 70% of all of the CFOs of Fortune 500 companies believe that we'll be in the heart of the recession Q1 of next year. And if you just look at historically, so from a rate update, if you look at historically and you overlay recessions and 30-year fixed interest rates, usually 6 to 12 months after the recession starts, we actually see a pretty big drop in rates and mortgages. So I'm not making any predictions. I'm just talking about history. But from a rate standpoint, we're a little bit lower than they were, and they seem to be trending down rather than up, which is kind of cool.
That's good. And if you're a buyer that's been looking for any length of time and maybe been kind of on the sidelines for a little bit, this is the time to get back in the game. Interest rates are similar to what they were probably at the beginning of the year when you were looking in that range.
In that range.
In that range where.
But I think we can get you there, and I think that's the really cool thing. So we were actually this is what's really cool in this market right now is that in the market that we had in the past, you're competing with cash buyers, and really the buyer that wins the transaction that wasn't cash was the one that had 20% down, was super qualified, and had to write, and could write really, really aggressive terms and had to compete with a lot of other buyers. We're not seeing that as much right now. And we're actually starting to see sellers, being willing to negotiate on some things. And so we actually had a buyer. This is really cool. So we had a buyer where we saw interest rates come down a little bit like they have. And then the seller was willing to buy down the buyer's interest rate with concessions. And what the drop in interest rates coupled with the seller being willing to buy the interest rate down, that got them a payment that was like $900 lower on this purchase than they were looking at about 30 days prior. And that actually brought interest rates back into like 2021 levels in terms of the drop that we saw and the sellers willing to negotiate. So I actually think that there's a really interesting opportunity right now where the market is still good. It's moving and trending and changing, but there's still opportunity. And we're starting to see some of the FHA buyers and VA buyers get back in the market, have opportunity, and sellers negotiating some terms that are pretty advantageous to buyers. So I think it's a cool opportunity right now.
And just looking, that's a great point. I mean, we're going to talk more about the kind of the advice that we have for buyers.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
No, which is going to be great. But to his point, there are opportunities right now, and you need to know what those are. If you're at all interested about buying or selling, you need to know. You need to get a snapshot of what's going on right now. You need to know what the trends are and what to expect in today's real estate market as of right now, because what was a month ago is not today. 3 months ago, not today. You need to know what's going on right now. So great point, Keith. Anything else you want to talk about as far as mortgages?
No, man, I think that's it. I think we got the product that we're talking about at the end, and let's get into kind of the advice for buyers right now.
Yes. So I love this. So
it's really good.
Yeah. Ryan Lundquist, Sacramento Appraisal Blog. Love everything he puts out, but he kind of put together this kind of advice for buyers and sellers, and I love it. So I just want to kind of share it with you guys. I think it's right on point. So tip number 1 for buyers: don't lowball like it's 2008. Man, so 2008, for those of you who don't know, it was a crazy time in the market, right? It was just, I mean, you're talking about overnight, it seemed like houses lost half their value, right? And so this
meme has had so much travel. Like
I know.
Like applied so many different times.
It's never ending. People use this for a lot of things, but it's still good. It's one of those things where you look at 2008. You know, this isn't a name your price market, right? You still have to make reasonable offers. You know, you're not in 2008. It was a completely different vibe, right? Overall. So there's a story here of a property that was priced at $450,000. Buyer offer $320,000. Obviously didn't get it. Now that was something in 2008 that could happen and did happen.
Right, but they did it.
What's that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the final close price on that one. Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to hit
final close price of that was $455,000. So it still closed $5,000 over what it was listed for. But because of all of the talk and unfortunately, even realtors in general and lenders sometimes are even giving advice, giving this type of advice. Oh, well, because the market's this way, we should offer this. And you have to know the stats. You have to know what's going on in the market. And you might be able to get lucky. That's fine. But bringing a reasonable offer is very important. And it's a better strategy that's going to help you win. So
the market's going to tell you what your home is worth. It really is.
Yes, absolutely it is.
So then we're rolling in. Be patient. This is another thing right now, just from a buyer standpoint, is you get the opportunity to be patient in this market, meaning homes are not selling as fast as they were. So you don't have to rush. I mean, there was times I remember where like, you know, the home just goes on the market. They're at work, like, okay, I'll take my lunch right now. Let's run and go take a look at it. Maybe you don't even have time to take a look at the property, and you got to write an offer sight unseen. That's not the case right now. We've got a little bit more time, but the market still does move, even with kind of like that idea of your final close price was over the list price. There are some properties that still go very fast. So if it checks all the boxes that you're looking for, like move aggressively on the house, but you don't have to break your neck and get out there and take a look at these properties because they are sitting a little bit longer typically.
Yeah, I remember a few months ago, even probably 3-4 months ago, you know, people were writing offers without even seeing
the house because like, what do we do? I can't get a look at it. I don't want to lose it, but I know it's where I want to be. So let's just write it. Yeah, it's not necessarily that right now.
Great. So next tip for buyers: ask for credits if possible. We are now in a place where I believe a more fair deal has to happen between the buyers and the sellers.
Yep.
And so there will be times where you may be able to negotiate a credit. So you do inspections. There are some things that come up. You then can ask the buyer to take care of those things, or potentially a credit to take care of those things. And that can help you, save more money on your purchase. There's also another option. So the credits is one thing that we can do, but Keith's going to kind of cover the other option, which is his favorite thing to talk about.
I love it. I'm not a huge fan of paying points right now, but I'm a really big fan of getting the seller to cover them. And so that is something from a credit standpoint, is you can actually ask the seller to pay for credits for potential repairs that can cause some loan issues, but the credit can more so just be a credit to offset your closing costs. If you don't like a price reduction, ask for a credit for closing costs. That's another meme that has had a lot of traction.
It doesn't matter. It's still good.
It's a good one. But yeah, buy the rate down. So the seller, as part of the negotiation, we're on more equal footing here. We can ask for some things to the sellers, and one of the things that we can ask for is a credit from the seller at the close of escrow that can be used to buy points, which is a fee to actually get a lower interest rate and bring that payment back down to a more affordable level. And we're seeing some scenarios where the seller credit being offered is almost the same. A $15,000, $20,000 seller credit is almost the same as like a $75,000 price reduction in terms of equivalent payment to buyers. So it's an awesome strategy to chase right now.
And keep in mind, like a credit or buying down the rate, maybe there might be the unicorn of that coming together at the same time. But typically it's kind of going to be one or the other in many cases. So don't be greedy. Your realtor will be able to educate you on what is fair in today's market. And of course, they're always going to want to negotiate on your behalf. But either one of those in this market would be a great thing to take advantage of. Yeah, cool. Well, another thing, I was having a conversation with a client earlier. We were just talking about, this is kind of, I love talking about things that I deal with on my daily, like the day in the life of a real estate agent type thing. Like you have the clients that have the $550,000 budget, but they want a house that's like $750,000 or $800,000. And it's just really funny. So I'm having a conversation with a client today, and they're just talking about how much time they're spending looking at listings every day. Like they are ready to go. They are serious about purchasing, but they know we've been working together for some time, and they know that what they want is a little bit more than what they can pay. So they've been watching the overpriced listings. So the next tip is target overpriced listings. So, if you have an experienced realtor on your team, they will be able to help you know what an overpriced listing looks like. But there are many times where there are sellers that are still listing houses overpriced. And those are really opportunities for you guys. So they represent opportunities for buyers in general. So go after them. And so what I mean by overpriced listings is houses that are listed for much more than probably what they're going to sell for. And you know that by the days on market. If they have been on the market for sometimes 3, 4, 5 weeks, and sometimes there'll be a reduction, sometimes there won't be. But looking at those homes and keeping an eye on those homes as they trend downward, some sellers are really stubborn about accepting offers below that unrealistic price. But if you catch them at the right time, there will be an opportunity to snag a listing closer to its fair price, or maybe negotiate under the list price and get a credit or buy down the rate. So there's opportunities there just with our increasing inventory.
And then really moving into, don't overpay, I think is a kind of another one right now, is you don't have to, automatically offer over list to get a house. It's not something that you need to do. And I think on average, the number was like 2% of the median home price. So the average home sold for 2% below list price. And that was, for our median, it's like $12,000 for the greater Sacramento. And that doesn't mean like every home you write for under $12,000. That's just related to the median. But I think to take away from that is you don't have to necessarily write an over offer to get the house. That's not the market. Whereas before it's like, man, it's listed for 600,000. What do you think we need to do? And I'm like, I don't know, 640, 650. Like that's not right. I mean, that's not the market that we're in right now, which honestly is a blessing. So don't overpay. You don't have to necessarily overpay, but you got to get smart. And I think this is where real estate agents really earn their money, is markets like this. I think your ability to buy a home and really sell a home in this market is directly related to the skill of the realtor and how connected they are to the market, because you got to be dead on. There's a window. And if you miss that window in pricing for your house for listing it, or writing the offer on the buyer, for buying it, like you miss out on a house.
Yeah, that is so true. Love it.
Competition.
No, I love it. let's realize out there. So next tip for buyers, last tip for buyers, actually, realize that there's still competition. So about 37% of homes last month in the Sacramento region sold above the original list price. So just keep that in mind. Like,
no, wild. Like, we're talking about, people are still saying the market's crashing, yet 37%, over one third of all homes still sold over list.
It blows my mind. So like, not everything is doom and gloom selling, below the list price. There are still houses selling at or above the list price. And we just have to be able to know that we're talking about the region as a whole. Like, I can't drive this home enough. Every region, every specific neighborhood, every house is a specific situation, right? And when you put them all together, you get these great stats and these great things to talk about. But there is still competition. Chances are, if there's a house that you like, there's going to be someone else that likes that house as well. Just the competition isn't as fierce as it was. It's still there.
Yep. I love it.
Well, let's move on to some advice for sellers. So right now we have some advice for sellers for August 2022 Sacramento real estate market.
It's awesome. It's fun because I don't necessarily get to give advice for sellers all the time. I'm typically speaking with buyers, so this is kind of cool. I feel a little outside of my norm, but this is good. So, I think this is one of the ones that's like, and what we're calling this is, don't expect to call the shots. And that's just kind of indicative of the trend that we've been talking about. Here's the market shifted a little bit, and so sellers you don't have all the power in the transaction that you did before, and you need to be ready to maybe not dictate all of the terms that you want. You need to be negotiable on some of the terms of the transaction, as well as obviously price. So be willing to work with the buyers on not just price but terms.
Yeah, and really be ready to negotiate.
Yeah,
that's another tip. It's like sellers have lost power. Like, there's a struggle, right, of power between buyers and sellers. Sellers want the best price, the highest net. Buyers want the lowest price, and it is a teeter-totter going back and forth always. But now it has become more of a level where you're basically teeter-tottering on both ends, and you just have to be willing sometimes to offer a credit. You have to be willing to do repairs. You have to be willing to do things if you want to move forward to whatever you have next in your life. Just be ready and willing to negotiate and not live in the past. Like, that 6 months was 6 months ago. Right now I know all it takes is one buyer to back out. And it's true though. I mean,
yeah.
Think about if you were a buyer and you got in a contract when interest rates were 4% or 3.875, and then they jump up to 5%. And how much more is 1% add to your payment, Keith?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And then we actually had one. This was a week or two ago where, like, a buyer got into contract on a house, and we were, they'd already paid for their inspections and their appraisal, so they were like, a week and a half, 2 weeks in, maybe $1,000 into the transaction. But a home that was more upgraded came on the market for $10,000 less than they were in contract at, in the same neighborhood, like model matching home. And so I think about it from that seller, and we actually went back to the sellers and negotiated with the sellers again, just because they were thinking about moving to the other property. But that's the one thing, I guess, for sellers right now is, if you have one buyer, you may be sitting for a while and be making mortgage payments for a period of time on the property without other activity. And so, buyers aren't necessarily just trying to take from you. They're seeing opportunity in the marketplace, and they have to chase it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you actually brought that up, because it is common with fluctuating interest rates for buyers to feel a little bit of a buyer's remorse, and them still have the fear of missing out and looking for other opportunities that they may be able to take advantage of if they don't get everything they want in that house that they get in contract the first time. If they sacrifice in any way, they're still in the back of their mind, still actively looking in a way. At least that's what I found for most buyers.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Demand has shifted.
So, what's that?
Demand has shifted. Forget about the hot headlines.
Yeah. Demand has shifted for sure. So really just plan for fewer offers. as we're looking with sellers, they're used to getting, you know, 6, 7, 8 offers on every house in most cases. So don't expect multiple bids. I had a house that was, I mean, we're talking about this house had everything from a pool to paid off solar to RV access. It had everything. And we got one offer one time, tried to negotiate, didn't work out. We got another offer another time. We got single offers in two different moments. Houses on the market for 30 days, but we ended up getting full list price. So that shows you that it is taking longer. If we get multiple bids, great. You know, make sure the house is priced right at the beginning, but you might only get one offer. And, you know, sellers that are holding on for more offers, maybe waiting a little bit in this type of market. So make sure, you know, if you have a buyer that's ready and willing to pay, you know, fair market for your home, just make sure you're ready and willing to work with them. If that makes
If you
sense.
want to sell it. And that's just because demand has shifted, right? Demand has shifted in the market. I think the market has seen about 30% less buyers right now than we've seen in the past, which is reducing demand and allowing some inventory to rise a little bit because of that demand. We still have active buyers in the market for sure, but that just kind of, I think that rolls into the, you know, plan for the fewer offers because we have a little less demand right now. You know, interest rates have moved up a little bit and slowed some people down for sure.
Yeah. And just knowing, because demand has shifted, there are more buyers coming to the market, even with the change in interest rates. So
Yep.
I think it's looking upward. Whereas last month when we were having this conversation, there was a lot of uncertainty, but I am way more optimistic this month, just in seeing where the opportunities are, especially with the interest rates slightly coming down. That's a huge help. But, you know, realistically, we need to forget about the headlines of the past. And I said this earlier, but the past is the past, right? The market has changed. This is not 6 months ago. And really, instead of focusing on the past headlines, focusing on where we're at in today's market, what's going on in your market, and what competition looks like, right? How to get your house in contract now if you're looking on selling. What are the keys to pricing your home right? Because before, here, I think no matter what we do, sellers are always going to do this. It's like, hey, this house sold 3 months ago and it's a model match to mine, but mine has paid off solar and this one's leased. My RV access is bigger. Like, my flooring's nicer. Like, whatever the case is, whatever that is, sellers look at that and they say, well, my house is better and it's worth more. Well, 3 months ago was a different real estate market than today is, right? So if we're focusing on the headlines and even just the information from the past, we're not looking in the present where we're at now. So it's more important than ever to get familiarized with where your market is and make sure that you have a trusted professional to help you figure out what the right pricing is, what the right marketing efforts are, things like that.
Yep, totally. You got there. So forget about the headlines of the past. Don't get offended with well, we kind of talked about this a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
we talked about the buyers asking for credit. So if the buyers are asking for credits, don't get offended by this. Like, this is, the market is shifting and this is becoming a little bit of a norm, and people are talking about it. I mean, in our industry, people are talking about concessions and credits and what to do with them and strategies that can be used to maximize opportunities for buyers and for sellers. So it's going to happen. People are going to ask for stuff. Don't be offended by it. It's not someone like saying, like, I don't like your house. They're in contract to buy it. They like it. It's just, there's things that may need to be changed, and don't take it personal.
Yeah, good one. Here's another tip for sellers: prepare your house like it was a first date. Now, when you go on that first date, you are wearing that, you know, your nicest clothes, you're on good behavior.
I thought you were going to say you're wearing that nice dress for a second. I'm like, Brandon, you don't
wearing that nice dress. But think about it. If your house is being shown in the best light, I always tell people, you want your house to be the best buy on the block, right? You want people to walk in and there should be no doubt in their mind that this is their home. And the things that you can do to prepare your home is to make sure that it's really clean, to make sure that it's staged right, to make sure that some of the minor repairs are taken care of, that there's nothing that would give the buyer the ability to say, nope, this house isn't for me. And if there are repairs that need to be made, buyers times that, whatever the price is, they times it by 10. So if it's a $500 fix, you're like, well, that's
Isn't that true?
$5,000.
Isn't that true?
It's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
So really preparing your home like you're, like you're on the first date is a great thing to do. And I can't say this enough. We are moving into a market where it's more important than ever for a house to be move-in ready, plain and
Agreed.
simple, so that a buyer can come in and not worry about all of the fix-ups and things they have to do. And it's
Well, look at it, man. Like when you're going to go sell your car, you typically detail it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm going to go list my car right now, I'm going to detail it. I'm going to vacuum it. I'm going to get it clean. I'm going to fix some stuff. Like if there's a little ding or a dent or, whatever, right? And one of the lights has got some of the, foggy mist or whatever in it. Like I'm probably going to fix some of that stuff to try to make that. And it's a lot of times just the little things that can change a lot of things with a house. And so if they're looking at multiple properties or multiple cars, you want it to be as most attractive as possible. And I think that kind of rolls in to, you want to make, as a seller, you want that escrow to go as quick as possible, right? So if you got one buyer, didn't have the other offers, there's other properties that might be coming on the market, kind of an example, right? What a terrible situation for that seller to be in, unfortunately, when a house in the market comes on the market less than where you're currently at. Like you may lose the buyers and then potentially have to go relist for a lower purchase price. So you want to do everything that you can to try to make that escrow as quick as possible. And one of those things is fixing the stuff ahead of time. So I think you talked about it, right? Like just get the section 1 pest work, like get a pest inspection done ahead of time and fix everything. Just like, don't give them any reason to balk when they come in or negotiate. Get it all done.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a couple $1,000s potentially, getting a pest inspection, getting some things, or even a home inspection, and getting just a few items taken care of. Now you can use that as a marketing strategy in your favor. That work has been completed, that the house is in tip-top shape. So I think that you're going to see that more and more, which I like, right? Everyone wants to sell their house for top dollar, but they also want to sell quickly, and nobody wants to sit on the market for 30, 45 days. But that is the market we're heading to. So if you can shorten that time even a few weeks, making some small fix-ups and things before listing, I think can be really, really good. So, next tip, we have a few more tips. We're wrapping up here pretty soon. Don't get stuck on the original list price. So I'm telling you right now, like this is the common conversation, and I talked about this earlier, like sellers have an idea of pricing of why their house is better than other houses. But if your house is sitting on the market longer than the average days on market, it's probably time to reduce your price in most cases. Again, your situation may be different, but we're looking at Sacramento region. We historically only see about 14% of properties sell at the original list price. So 86% of the time, the price is literally going to be either higher or lower, right? And in today's market, it's probably going to be lower than higher as far as what they sell for. So
and that's a traditional thing. Like it was actually an anomaly. When you look at COVID, that 2-year period of time, that was really the only 2-year stretch that we have recorded where homes sold over list. Now they sold way over list, right? But traditionally, when you look at the market and actually look at stack, like go back year over year over year over year, homes sold under list. That's a thing. 17, 18, 19 before COVID, great real estate markets. Like you're in the great real estate markets in 17, 18, and 19. Homes sold under list. It's a thing. It's not, and it's just something we need to get used to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True story.
Cool. I only speak the truth, Brandon. Did you just do this? Come on.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We got a couple more. Keith, do you believe in unicorns?
I mean, my daughter hit me with this the other day, and I don't remember the exact number, but like unicorns are mentioned like 8 times in the Bible. Did you know this?
Wow.
It's a thing. So that doesn't mean they're real.
Yeah, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Is that what you said, or unicorns?
Yeah, I did.
Look, like, yeah, I mean, the market shifted, right? The market shifted a lot, and I think we talked about this a lot, right? And talking about your house, like thinking your home is worth more. You're chasing that unicorn buyer, right? That may exist, we think is out there somewhere, but they may not be in the market for your house. So I think that kind of comes to, you get an offer, it's a good offer, a reasonable offer. You've got no other activities. The home's been on the market for 35 days and you're like, but maybe that buyer's out there for my house. That's the unicorn. And I think that's what they're meaning.
Absolutely.
Be reasonable. Be reasonable.
Be reasonable. And, be in tune, because we have be in tune with picky buyers. Like,
yep.
Pickier buyers can be pickier now for two reasons, because it's harder and it's not as affordable as it was even 6 months ago to buy a house in today's market, and we have more inventory.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, a buyer may have an extra 10, 15 grand that they were setting aside to like fix the property up, but now they're actually using that to maybe pay off some debt, to buy the interest rate down, or to put more down to make the payment a little bit more affordable. So they're coming into that situation without the ability to potentially make all those improvements. And so that's where, maybe they're looking at the house saying, well, the things that we previously had the funds to fix, we're going to ask to fix those now.
Yep.
Cool.
And here's your bonus tip in closing. If you are going to be selling your house in today's market, I would strongly
hire Brandon Leon. Is that what the tip was? It was hire Brandon Leon.
Yes, that as well. In addition to, and then 1A would be, if you're going to be selling your house or thinking about selling your house in today's market right now, as of August 2022, consider offering the buyer's agent a 3% commission. And here's why.
Yeah.
Here's why. Typically, we will see in today's real estate market 2.5% to 3%, more often than not 2.5% commission to the buyer's agent. The buyer's agents are responsible for bringing buyers to the house, showing the house, and let's face it, buyer's agents work off of commission, just like any realtor does. And if they are going to receive more commission for highlighting your house to a buyer, they're more likely than not going to showcase your home in a different way if they're going to be paid more.
You did that very well. You did that very well.
But it's true. And I have seen some discount brokerages and some companies offering 2% and no one shows the house, or 2.25%, no one shows the house. And 2.5% has somewhat been the standard over the past few years. But I'm telling you right now, that extra $800, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is, that is going to sell your house more often than not, quicker and for more money than letting it sit on the market and then doing a price reduction for $10,000 to $30,000. So
really, I didn't even think about that.
Keep that in mind, guys.
Really good idea.
Money. Offer the listing agent and the buyer's agent a full 3%. Let them do their job, and that's going to help you actually make more money, sell faster, and have less stress. Yep. So if you heard nothing else, this is the number one thing I would recommend sellers to do. It's a bonus tip. I should have done it in the beginning. But this is the number one thing I recommend right now, because like he said, it's more important than ever to have a trusted professional to help navigate you through this. It's more important than ever to have a professional to help you buy or sell a home in today's market. So, hey, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to hear from you. So you have questions about the real estate market, about what's going on, let us know. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Again, if there's anything we covered today that you want to talk more about, we'd love to talk about it with you. But we will see you next month.
See y'all. Have a blessed one.